Hey Pretty Girl Club, welcome back to Pretty Girl University. Class is starting. In this video, I want to talk more about privilege stacking and micro validation. So in some of my previous videos, I've talked about people who have inferiority complexes and kind of like some of the symptoms of inferiority complexes. So I've noticed that one of the symptoms is seeking too much external validation. So these are the people who they tell everyone their plans because they're hoping to receive approval. They take things personally when you disagree with them. So these would be like the YouTubers or the content creators who are taking my channel personally, or they take having our own spaces personally. These are all signs of people who have inferiority complexes, which cause them to have a desire to seek external validation. But one of the ways that you can kind of like calm down with seeking so much external validation is by building your own sources of validation. So in other videos, I've talked about multiple streams of income. And in this video, I want to talk about building multiple streams of validation. So one of the main streams of validation that I talk about on here is pretty privilege. So I talk about building your own pretty girl pedestal and kind of embracing your beauty and making sure that you meet your own internalized beauty standard. That's very important because if you don't meet your own standards for success, which includes beauty, if you don't meet your own internalized standards, you're going to constantly feel inferior to other people. And so what I've done is I have learned how to validate myself in different ways and kind of use my micro validations as a supplement to help build my self-esteem. So that way, if I fail in one area, I've still got 5 or 10 other sources of validation. So that's one of the micro validations. It's building your own pretty privilege or appreciating your own beauty, making sure that you meet your own internalized beauty standard. I don't care if you do that via your natural phenotype, your natural beauty, or if you do it via makeup or, fashion, however you want to do that. But another source of micro validation for me is actually this YouTube channel. You would be shocked at how much healing I have been able to find just by having a YouTube channel where I can talk to you guys and kind of like share my thoughts, and people are actually listening, and I'm realizing, wow, like I'm not crazy. I wasn't making this stuff up. And even when you guys write in your story times, like when you guys email me all of your different story times, and I see that there are literally thousands of us that can all relate and that we all have very similar stories, regardless of our skin tones, regardless of our hair textures and stuff, that is actually a huge source of validation for me. And so one way that you can use this to your advantage is by definitely starting your own YouTube channel. And it doesn't even have to be about Exoticals, because the reason I started this YouTube channel was I just randomly wanted to talk. I just wanted to feel heard. And validation is really about feeling seen and feeling heard and feeling understood. And so the pretty privilege side of it, the beauty part, that's about being seen. And then for me, with having this YouTube channel, this is about being heard. It's about my side of the story being heard, or like telling my story. So this is why in every video, you will always hear me encouraging you guys to start your own channels. Notice how in other spaces, they're very competitive with one another. They don't encourage their subscribers to like start their own channels. Notice how a lot of the girls are like very threatened by other content creators and stuff. But no, one of the main things that I really hope that you guys do is start your own channels, because that's going to be such a major source of validation. And it's funny because you would think that like the subscribers or the money part, that's the biggest validator. No, it's actually my comments section. That is the biggest form of validation for me with this YouTube channel. When you guys comment and say, oh my gosh, I was just thinking about this, or hey, what you talked about in a video, that happened to me last week, that makes me feel validated. So that's another source of validation. So remember, you want to have multiple streams of validation so that if one of them goes away, or if you don't have access to one of them for whatever reason, you still have another source. And it's funny because some people have tried to critique this movement, and they've tried to say, oh, they focus too much on pretty privilege. And it's like, well, that's actually false. I talk about having multiple streams of validation so that even if you don't have pretty privilege, like right now, I'm literally recording this while I am laying in the bed with like a nightgown on. I do not have pretty privilege right now. I'm just literally, I didn't put any effort into my looks whatsoever, but I am still receiving validation, even if I'm just in the bedroom by myself. I'm still receiving validation because I still get to be heard. I'm sharing my story. So if there's something you've always wanted to talk about, it could be spiritual stuff. It could be like hearing your life story, like all the different channels that I've come across so far, just hearing you guys' stories and like being able to relate to them and stuff. That is a major source of validation. I actually shouldn't even call that micro validation because it's really a major source of validation. But another stream of validation that you can get, this is social media validation. So this is actually a very common one. I feel like a lot of people who don't have other streams of validation, they tend to rely the most on social media validation. And no, I'm not just talking about posting thirst traps. This could be something simple like creating a new Instagram page where you have like jewelry on there, or creating a fashion Pinterest mood board or something like that, or creating some sort of, I don't know, you can curate your own Instagram page into, putting all of your best pictures on there, or just sharing pictures of your vacations and kind of organizing it and making it look pretty, and then kind of connecting with friends and family. So that's another stream of micro validation. It is, because every time you post on social media, you are looking for validation. You want to be seen, whether you want people to see your picture or you want to be heard. Like, those people that post on Facebook and they like get up on their soapbox and they start talking about Trump and like conservatives, and they start talking about all of these politics and stuff. They are seeking validation in terms of being heard. And by the way, I'm not shaming any of these things because all of us have used all of these different tactics before. But one of the ways that these micro validations can help you to stack more privileges is because these things can actually open up the door for you to have more wealth. So, for example, when I started this YouTube channel, I was not starting it with the intention of being monetized and making money, but that turned out to be a side effect. So, I ended up getting an additional privilege on top of just being heard. So that's why I use the term privilege stacking. And I feel like these sources of micro validation are going to be very important when it comes to you like acquiring wealth, because wealth is a privilege. So these things are going to be very important when it comes to that. But another form of micro validation, or another stream of micro validation that I like to use for myself, is I like to learn new skills. So learning a new language, or learning how to edit. So lately I've been getting more into AI photos and stuff, like kind of trying to learn it. Shout out to Intellectual Exotical and Exotical Lo-Fi, those two YouTube channels. Make sure you guys subscribe to them. Both of them are really amazing with their visuals and graphics and stuff. But that's a source of micro validation because I know that even if I fail in one area, I still have other skills to fall back on. Also, in the workplace, when it came to learning new skills, like whether it was accounting, whether I was working as a barista or working as a maid in a hotel, it didn't matter what I was doing. What mattered was the skills I was learning, because that actually contributed to me being able to switch careers so many times. Learning all those skills, it actually assisted me in having a fluid identity in the workplace. And when I say fluid identity in that sense, I'm not even talking about race. I'm talking about like I have so many different skills, hard skills and soft skills, to the point where if I need to switch careers tomorrow, I can. And that's part of why I can come on YouTube and talk so much shit, because I know that even if this channel fails, I can either start another one, or I can just go off into the world, go into the real world and get a different job if I ever needed to. So all of these sources of micro validation, they're going to help you to build confidence. They're going to help you to build wealth. And also remember that with every source of micro validation you're building, you're also educating yourself. Because, with beauty, you're teaching yourself how to do your hair, how to do your makeup, the color wheel, all of these little things that you're learning, that is still a form of educating yourself. So you're actually contributing to education privilege as well. Also, one thing I forgot to mention about using your own beauty as a form of micro validation, like building your own beauty pedestal, I recently heard an unambiguous YouTuber say something along the lines of, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, which means the beholder is the one with the power. And she's technically not wrong for saying that, but the thing to remember is that you are also the beholder. of your own beauty. So, yes, beauty is in the eye of the external beholder, but beauty is also in the eye of the internal beholder. And so, one thing I've noticed is that when people have inferiority complexes, like whenever the validation of other people dries up, they become depressed and they have no self worth because no guy is talking to them or no one is complimenting them, or, so it's too externally dependent. And the way that I view validation as a whole is that two things can be true at the same time. I can receive validation from others, but I also can validate myself. So that's just a side note when it came to beauty. And honestly, that's true when it comes to everything. Like, even if like when I first started my YouTube channel, I had 0 views, 0 subscribers, 0 comments, but then eventually people commented, but I was still happy though because I got to express my creativity. I got to get things off of my chest. And whenever you're recording a YouTube video, it's basically like talking to yourself. And there are plenty of articles that talk about how venting to yourself that actually can contribute to helping your mental health anyway. So it's like I'm increasing my mental health even if I don't have the external validation. At least I'm still bringing healing to myself. But that leads me into my next source of micro validation, which is utilizing creativity and utilizing my imagination so that I can have fun. So, for example, you guys know that I'm very into mood boards, and for some of you, maybe you're into art, maybe you like painting. I had this one friend, she was really into painting. She would get like all these different paints and canvases, and she would make these beautiful paintings and put them up in her apartment. And her whole entire apartment was decorated with all of these beautiful paintings that she had created. That is a form of micro validation because every day when you get home from work and you walk into this beautiful apartment that you created, you are validating yourself because you are sending a subconscious message that, hey, I'm powerful enough to shape my own environment. I'm powerful enough to beautify my environment. I'm valuable enough to feel like I'm worthy of living in a beautiful environment with all these pretty paintings. Or for some of you, maybe you like decorating for the holidays. I know that I need to do my decorations. I really want to decorate my balcony and stuff for the summertime. And that is actually a form of micro validation because I'm sending a message to myself that, hey, I am valuable. My life is valuable. I'm special. You know, those people that have a mindset of, well, no one's coming over, so I don't need to do anything with my apartment. And it's like, well, I live here. I'm special. I'm the main character in my life. And so I want my environment to reflect how I feel on the inside. Because for a lot of us, our life is like a mirror. So, how your life is on the outside, it reflects how you feel on the inside. If I feel good about myself on the inside, I want that to reflect in my environment. If I feel like I'm beautiful internally, I want my bedroom to also be beautiful. And I know you're not going to be perfect at this because I'm not perfect at this. I don't keep my apartment super clean 24/7. But the point is that when you do use your creativity to beautify your surroundings, that is a form of micro validation. It's a form of self validation because you're literally manifesting something. You're taking something from being an idea in your head and then you're manifesting it into your reality, which makes you feel powerful. And then, feeling powerful, that helps you to overcome victim mentality and stuff like that because when you think about people who have inferiority complexes, that comes from trauma. And trauma, it causes chronic stress, which means you're stressed out all the time. So if you have a bunch of traumas when it comes to your beauty, like maybe you've been called ugly thousands of times, or you think you're ugly, or you equate your skin tone to trauma or something like that, that causes chronic stress. And I was listening to a video by Intellectual Exotical, and she was kind of talking about how when you have these traumas, it takes up space in your brain. So, you know how, like, if you're on your iPhone and you have too many photos in there, it'll be like your iPhone storage is full or like your memory is full. So now you can't capture new memories because there are too many photos kind of clogging everything up and clogging up the space. That's how the brain works. Like if you have all of these negative memories, all of these put downs that people have given you, all of these inferiority complexes that others have projected onto you, if your mind is cluttered with all of those things, eventually the storage centers in your brain are going to become full to the point where it's like you have all this brain fog. You are no longer seeing your reality clearly. You're seeing your reality through the lenses of a victim. You're seeing your reality through the lenses of someone who feels like you're at the bottom. You're viewing your reality from someone who is underprivileged. That's why I call this privilege stacking, because I refuse to identify with being underprivileged. I just feel like I have too many positive qualities. I feel like I have too many things going for myself in life to the point where I can't identify with being underprivileged. I don't want that to be my identity. I really don't. I don't want that to be my reality. I don't want that to be the life I live. I want to live a life that is limitless. I want to view myself as being limitless. I want to view myself as someone that has the potential to do something great in this world. I don't want to view it like, oh, I'm in this race against everyone else and I'm starting off behind them, or, I'm starting off with all of these social handicaps. And it's like, no, my skin tone is not a handicap. My race is not a liability to me. My blackness is an asset. I don't view it like, oh, I'm going to be held back in life because of my race. No, I'm proud of my race. I love my racial background. I love all of the beautiful people who came together to make me who I am. And so I refuse to take on these invalidating mindsets that other people have. Another way that I give myself a form of validation is via my education. So, once again, this reminds me of intellectual exotical. I think she was talking about how she like either has a pilot's license or she's like in school to become a pilot. I don't know, don't quote me on that. But this actually made me think about myself too and how I really do love educating myself. So, believe it or not, I actually have taken courses on how to create a YouTube channel. Like, I'm not kidding. I've done $1,000 course before, just learning like the ins and outs of YouTube marketing and search engine optimization and how to build a subscriber base and how to like attract an audience, like an actual audience of people that are very into your content. So that's a form of educating myself. So that is actually not only validating myself, but it's also helping me to build a form of privilege here on YouTube because I actually have a professional background to supplement the fun pretty girl topics that we talk about here on this YouTube channel. So, educating yourself is definitely a huge form of validation. And it doesn't just have to be formal education. This could be taking a class. Maybe you've always wanted to learn pottery. Something I've always wanted to do that I haven't done yet, but I'm planning on doing eventually. It's taking some sort of cooking class. Let me know in the comment section if you've ever taken a cooking class. Like, was it worth it? Because some of them were they seemed kind of overpriced, but I was like, I don't know, maybe it's really worth it. Maybe you learn a lot. I don't know. But educating yourself is going to be so important when it comes to your social climbing journey. And by the way, another way to give micro validation to yourself is by socializing. We do all this talking about social climbing, but a lot of people, they don't have a social life. And I've noticed that a lot of people, they're not as underprivileged as they think. You're not underprivileged, you just don't socialize. You don't go out, you don't meet anyone, you don't have any hobbies. So, of course, you feel unwanted or like, nobody likes you or whatever. It's like you didn't even try. You didn't even go outside. You literally sit in your apartment as if it's a prison cell. You never interact with the world around you. You don't even try to make friends or go out to, I don't know, a bar, hookah, brunch, something. So that's another way, though, that you can build micro validation. It's by socializing. So for me, I like to do my socializing via my hobbies. So I like to go to the gym. You know how they have classes and stuff in the gym? And by the way, that doesn't even have to be expensive. You literally can join. I think that even doesn't Planet Fitness even have gym classes and stuff? I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that because Planet Fitness is like $10 a month. So maybe they don't have classes, but I know that like LA Fitness and the YMCA and all these other gyms, they have all kinds of classes that you can go to, whether it's yoga class, Pilates, and those are ways that you can make friends and also validate yourself. You know what one of my favorite things is? and like this is literally just me validating myself. I like planning my outfit for when I go to yoga class. So I will literally get like a pink water bottle, a pink yoga mat. I'll have like a little pink outfit on with a pink scrunchie and some pink little socks. You know those socks where it has like a little grip on the bottom so that you don't slide off the yoga mat? Yeah, so I have some of those. And that is a form of micro validation because I'm combining my creativity, I'm utilizing my pretty privilege or building my own pretty girl pedestal, meeting my own internal beauty standard for what I feel a pretty yoga girl looks like. And then I'm also just expressing myself and socializing. Do you see how I just combined like 5 or 6 different forms of validation? That is very important when it comes to your privilege stacking journey because it's like, even if I go to the yoga class and nobody talks to me, who cares? Because I still looked cute. I still have my little outfit on. I still got a workout in. I still burned some calories. I'm still contributing to other aspects of my life. I still got my endorphins. So that's what I mean when I say having multiple sources of validation. So that way you don't have that sadness where it's like, oh, nobody talked to me, or like, I'm an introvert, so I didn't feel good after I left the class because I didn't make any friends. Well, you got like 5 other sources of validation that you just got from that class, though, so you should be fine. And what I've noticed is that women who have inferiority complexes, they think like that because they don't know how to like overcome their traumas and their stress because their mind is so cluttered with all of these negative memories. So they don't know how to move past the memories and kind of like create a strategy to get out of it, to get out of that mental muck that they're in. So creating different sources of micro validation, that's a way you can do that. And also notice how there's a difference between micro validation versus narcissistic supply. So narcissistic supply is when you need constant reassurance, you need power over others, control over others. And this is why sometimes when I talk about toxic mothers, I kind of feel like women who are extremely narcissistic sometimes want to be mothers because that's a free source of narcissistic supply. You get to have power over that child, you get to have control over that child. It also reminds me of women who say, oh, I want to birth these mixed race babies. You know, the women who like fetishize babies with certain phenotypes and stuff. And I've even heard one woman say that she wants to birth like a light skinned son so she can teach that son how to like have a crush on dark skinned black women. I just kind of viewed that as like a form of narcissistic supply because you're trying to birth a son so that you can then have power and control over his sexuality and make him admire your phenotype. That sounds like narcissistic supply. So I'm trying to talk about microvalidation because I feel like it's a healthy alternative to where you don't need to use all of these narcissistic tactics and stuff in order to try to build your false sense of self-esteem. But another way that I build validation for myself is via my family. I have siblings. Oh, I forgot to tell a story time of when I went back to my hometown recently. So I went to visit my family in my hometown. Me and my brothers, we went bar hopping. It was funny because that was my first time ever going bar hopping with my brothers. But that was fun though because I felt validated because I was surrounded by loved ones. So we went out to these little karaoke places, and one of my brothers, he's LGBT, he's gay or bi, I mean, or he dresses, you know what I mean. Anyway, so we went to these different like bars and stuff, and we like met all these different people, and we had fun, and that was a source of validation for me. That was a micro validation because notice how I didn't say anything about, oh, I was sad because like no guys looked at me in the bar. No, I wasn't even paying attention to anyone looking at me in a bar because I was too busy already having another source of validation, which was my family, being around loved ones and just hanging out with my siblings. And then I remember I also I had lunch with my grandma, so she ordered some Mexican food, and like we just hung out. We were just eating the Mexican food and stuff. I made her some coffee because I like coffee. But that's what I mean when I say it's a micro validation. So you're getting attention, you're receiving positive attention, you are feeling seen, and you're feeling heard. Because I've noticed that usually it's the ones who have no other sources of validation that are the most desperate for male validation. It's because they don't have any other area in their life where they feel seen or heard. It's funny because I actually talk about men being like this, But I do feel like there are some women who are like this as well, to where if you're not in a relationship, you're irrelevant. You really feel like you're irrelevant because you're at the bottom of the totem pole at work. You just go in, you're just another employee at the bottom of the organizational chart. You don't have a family, or maybe you have bad family relationships, or you're isolated from your family. You don't have any friends, and so the only place you feel relevant is in a relationship. And I've noticed that the people who get the most pissed off about who men prefer and stuff like that, those are the women who have no other sources. They don't have any other sources of potential validation other than this, having a chance with a man. And so it kind of reminds me of like the incels on YouTube, where they get mad when women choose to like date different races of guys, or they get mad when women don't want kids and stuff. And it's because, yeah, without your attention, they feel irrelevant. And so the way to stop from feeling irrelevant is to have multiple sources of positive attention. Another micro validation that a lot of people practice is spirituality. So some of you guys are Christians, some of you guys are Catholics. I was raised very devout Christian. I don't consider myself to be religious anymore, but I do like some of the spiritual principles. Sometimes I will listen to different people online, and it just feels good to kind of like meditate sometimes, and that makes me feel validated. And it's funny because I love doing the gratitude, like the gratitude journals, and thinking about things that I'm grateful for. So for example, I can name some things I'm grateful for right now. I'm grateful for my YouTube channel. I am so grateful that I have a voice, because you know how people say, like, oh, if you had to lose like your ears, or if you had to choose between being blind or deaf, like which one is worse? Like for me, I'm so grateful that I can speak, because for me, I think that being mute would like suck. But then I thought about it. I was like, okay, if I couldn't talk, I would be a writer. But anyway, just being able to have things that I'm grateful for, that makes me feel good. And so spirituality is another form of micro validation. Another thing that I do is I like to be working towards a goal. So, for example, notice how the women who get mad about isms, usually they are only mad because they feel like those isms are holding them back from their end goal. And so I'm not saying this to be mean to anyone. I'm saying this because it's actually going to help you to realize what path you need to take. So it's like, okay, what do you think is holding you back? Do you think your skin tone's holding you back, hair texture, phenotype, your weight? And what do you think that it's holding you back from? What is your end goal? Is your goal a relationship? Is your goal marriage? Is your goal to be famous? Do you want to be an influencer? Do you want to be some sort of like IG model or something? What is your end goal? And for me personally, simply having goals that I'm working towards, that is a form of micro validation, because once again, I don't get mad if, like, let's say I go to the yoga class and I didn't make a friend that day. It's okay, because making friends, yes, that's one of my goals, but I have so many other goals, to the point where if I don't hit one, I still have five other ones that I hit. And so one of the things that I have learned is to set smaller goals and then use those smaller goals. Kind of, it's privilege stacking basically. So once I hit those small goals, then I am like, I can work towards the bigger goals. So for example, my first goal was to hit 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. And now my next goal is 20,000. So I think I'm at like 18,000 right now. But that's something really good that you can think about. Like, what are my goals in terms of privilege stacking? What types of privileges would I like to have? So I can answer for myself. I want to have pretty privilege, wealth privilege, education privilege. I definitely care about social privilege as well, kind of like status. I do care about like having friends in high places, or kind of like having leveled up friends that I can rub shoulders with. I also want the privilege of being cultured. When I think of someone who's cultured, I think of someone who travels a lot, someone who's well traveled. So I'm going to Mexico. By the way, side note, I'm going to Mexico like next weekend. So if I go like a couple days without posting, that's why. But I want to be cultured. That's one of my goals in terms of privilege. And I thought about it, like for me, I don't really have an end goal, because I don't really feel like there's ever a time where I have arrived. I've noticed that for some people they do have an end goal, and then once they achieve that, they become depressed. So for example, let's say you really wanted a baby. Then after you have the baby, you're like, okay, what's next? Like, I'm depressed now because I just met my end goal and I didn't think about what life would be like after this. And so with the goals, I try to be careful because it's like life is not supposed to be this thing where I'm just jumping through a bunch of hoops. The way that I view my life is my purpose is whatever I want it to be. I mean, my purpose is really just to be happy, to create things, to inspire people, create content, whatever content that is, whether it's YouTube videos, Patreons, I don't know, podcasts or whatever courses. Um, that's what I feel my purpose is. And I think that sometimes if people put themselves in too much of a box, they start to feel like, oh, if I don't hit this goal by this time, then I failed. And so I would just say be careful with the goal setting part. Like maybe try setting smaller goals for yourself or setting daily goals. That's something that I like to do. So let's see, did I meet my goal for today? Well, yes, I did because I made a YouTube video. But yeah, what are your daily goals? And what are some of the ways that you can validate yourself every single day? One of the other forms of micro validation that I like to have, and this helps build my privilege, is my health. Being healthy is absolutely a privilege. Being healthy and able bodied, that's a huge privilege that so many people overlook. The fact that I am able to sit here and speak for a long time, the fact that I can go on hikes and that my muscles and stuff are working well, that's very important to me. I'd be depressed if I couldn't like do my hikes and stuff. Being able bodied, that's a big deal because you can walk around Disneyland. Like you can travel and actually go see the sights. So that's something where I really do try to micro validate myself by staying healthy and like having healthy habits, healthy daily habits such as stretching, foam rolling. I'm looking at my foam roller right now. Well, actually, it's not my foam roller, but I'm looking at a foam roller right now that's like where you basically sit on this little ball thing or like this little rolling thing, and then it massages deep into your muscles and it helps your recovery time if you're like an athlete or something like that. It helps your body to recover faster. So, that's a way that I can validate myself and show love towards myself. It's by maintaining my health. It's by making sure that I'm drinking enough water. Same thing goes with hair care, by the way. So for the people who are like, oh no, she just has good genetics and I just have bad genetics. It's like, well, do you have bad genetics or do you just suck at caring for your hair? Like, which one is it? Because I love myself and I love my hair enough to want to take care of it. But anyway, what are your forms of micro validation? How do you validate yourself? What are your streams of validation? Is it your family? Do you have a little roster or something? You're dating some guys or something? Do you have like pretty privilege? Do you like to take care of your hair, your skin, your body? What do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.